welcome to Speed Dates. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people who don't know who you are? Thank you for joining me, by the way.
No worries. My name is Linkus7. I'm a full-time content creator and Zelda speedrunner. I like to dive into basically all of the 3D Zelda games, except for Skyward Sword.
So, how long have you been speedrunning?
I picked up speedrunning in 2013, so yeah, about 8 years now speedrunning.
Wow, nice. What was your first game? Did you start with HD? Because I believe that also came out in 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. No, I actually started with Luigi's Mansion because I found speedrunning and like got really into Twitch from watching Fire Dragon stream, or Fi-Fi as some people might know him as. So yeah, so I got into Luigi's Mansion, and then after that I kind of tested my waters with a lot of games like Super Mario Sunshine, 64, Ocarina of Time. The really fun one that clicked. It wasn't until like late 2014, like December 2014, November, where I first dived, kind of like accidentally discovered Wind Waker, and that's when I really started to take like streaming and speedrunning seriously. Because I'm sure like a lot of people in the audience might maybe can relate to this, but it didn't click to me that people would speedrun all games when I first picked it up. So because I was mostly focused on like the Mario aspect, right? Like I basically did like Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario 64 and Sunshine. I don't really realize that people would be speedrunning like the Zelda games because they were so long, right? So I kind of like stumbled upon it. I was like, oh wait, what? So when I found that out, like I was hooked basically.
I love how you're talking about like, oh man, why would they run that? It's so long. And then you went to being the guy known for running a long category. I actually,
well, yeah, I've always been a fan of the longer categories, honestly. Oh, since I became a full-time streamer.
Yeah, I think once you go full-time, the longer categories are just better. Less reset heavy, more general content. You don't find yourself being in that repetitive loop, I feel.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's two aspects to it. Like if you want to, I could dive into like the streamer aspect and the kind of speedrunner aspect if you'd like me to.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, so like the speedrunning aspect is like, I don't get bored as hell. I used to get super bored grinding any percent because it's literally like 20 minutes over and over again. And also with the shorter categories, they're so much more optimized that it's like one tiny mistake and you kind of just start over from the beginning. But the other thing too, like the stream perspective, is that it gives more content, and also like it also helps to generate some hype as well, which is an extra bonus. Because like if people see green splits or blue splits, people go like, ooh, that's hot. But for a short category, if it's like any percent, it's like 40 minutes, right? There's no time to build it up. Well, if they see like 2 hours in green, they get more excited, and then like it kind of like you have multiple hours to build on that. So it's both better for the stream. That's why, I mean, if you usually look at the most popular categories, like Wind Waker HD is 100%, Ocarina of Time is 100%, Super Mario 64 is 120 star. Usually, as long as the long category is actually good content and not just like boring tediousness, like Twilight Princess, no offense.
Okay.
Then you know it, then it's really good. But TP is a bit different because I mean it basically is the length of a normal Zelda 100% anyways for any percent. So
to be fair, I have switched to 100% and it does fix that problem. But it's funny that you mentioned that because you're right. Even in TP any percent, I feel like I'm running an any percent and not like a hundo. There's just so many more like high risk, high reward moments, and once you get to the point where you have all of those in your speed run and any of them kill it, you just find yourself with red splits all the time. The green splits don't last. There's not that buildup of hype that I feel like the 100% categories tend to have. And even like I've only been running hundo for 3 days, I think, and I can tell like there's a huge difference in the dynamic of the stream. Like the viewers' interaction with me, the viewers' interaction with like the run itself, it's completely different, despite being
definitely
very similar.
Yeah, I mean, an easy example, if people don't know Twilight Princess that well, for example, there's a frame perfect trick to skip a cutscene or watch it later that saves about 40 seconds to a minute, where you jump into a void, and that's about 40 minutes into the run. I feel like for an 80% runner that's a top runner, it's like you kind of just want to reset if you fail it. Even if you don't technically have to and you can bring the run back, it's such an optimized 80% run that it's kind of like oof. And all the viewers kind of feel at the same time. If you fail it, they're like, why are you not resetting? Well, if it's 100%, it's so different because it's like, whatever, I can save this time back later. So you don't feel as bad, so you have a better mentality, you're more entertaining because you don't have a bad mentality, and the viewers don't feel like, why is this guy not resetting based upon this mistake, right?
Yeah.
So I think like you said, the dynamic is a lot better in my opinion on 100% speedruns.
Completely agree. But I'm gonna go back to the first initial question of like getting into speedrunning. Was there something that you saw in speedrunning that like really drew you to it? Like even like both for Luigi's Mansion and for Wind Waker. Like what about Luigi's Mansion speedruns made you feel like this is cool? I want to check this out. Like was there something? Or
well, Luigi's Mansion was a bit different. For Luigi's Mansion, it was actually the community, because I was coming from Call of Duty background. I did competitive Call of Duty from 2010 to 2012. I used to go to like minor tournaments around Sweden, like local tournaments. But so like I never experienced like a smaller, like really wholesome, nice community, and it just happened to be Luigi's Mansion was surrounded with like firefight and a bunch of great people. So I did that more for the community aspect, and I think also why I continued was because I noticed I had a bit of talent. I got really good at the game like really fast, so that was obviously like very, you know, for me at the time I was like 14 years old, so obviously that was a bit of an ego boost for me as a 14-year-old, where I got a record after a week and a half. Compared to these who've been running for months, so that probably kept me going as well. But with the Wind Waker and the Zelda games, because that's kind of like what I really started grinding in, like when I care more about the speedrun than the streaming community aspect. It was just the glitches. Like I used to go online and watch glitch tutorials all the time in all the games I played. Like even Call of Duty, I used to look up like out of bounds glitches on all the maps. Like not in multiplayer, but just like even just going in random campaign missions. I just like being out of the map, right? Like I love that stuff. So when I realized that I could be doing that constantly and make like a performance out of it, it was just such a cool concept to me. So I think the glitches that really like captivated me in that front. I'm also someone that I don't like really finding new games. I like kind of getting good at something and kind of just grinding the same thing. So that mentality also helps a lot with like, you know, speedrunning, because like one of my big issues with Call of Duty was that you have to rely on other people. Like if you get bad teammates, because like remember at the time, like I was really taking to like actually competitively, and you know at the time then yeah, teammates, like I would get frustrated other people messing up. Sure, there's like RNG, like which is, you know, basically luck in speedrunning, but it's still just like it's you, right? Like you don't have to worry about other people causing you to fail, if that makes sense.
It's you versus the game rather than you and your teammates versus other people.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I've also heard some people describe speedrunning as you and your community versus the game, instead of you and your teammates. Like you still have teammates, but it's like different. You know, you're never
very,
like,
very
man,
true.
I can't believe these guys haven't found a new time save. These slackers. You know, you're never flaming your glitch hunters, whatever. I honestly, you hit like 4 different topics that I want to go into. The getting into streaming at 14, getting a world record at 14, like that's pretty insane. I also wanted to get into just like for a quick side note, I feel like a lot of people that I see get into speedrunning get into it and they say, man, I got into this because I was playing League of Legends, Rocket League, Valorant, you know, whatever the team game is, and it was just so toxic. It's speedrunning, so wholesome. And it's, you know, I have 2 thought processes here. One of them is, how is everyone in the community toxic, but also everyone leaves? Like, I don't understand how a community is like 100% toxic people, but also 100% people that complain that their game is toxic. I think it's just like the nature of team games is that everyone wants to do their best and win, but not everyone can always play their best. And it's just easier to blame someone else than yourself, which I think is why a lot of people get into speedrunning and then drop it, is they realize that, crap, I might not actually be super good at this. You know, I don't have anything to blame but myself. They might blame RNG, other aspects, but that's going down a whole nother road. But I do think it's interesting how many people come to speedrunning as a way to escape competitiveness while still being competitive.
Definitely. I think the thing to remember though is that I don't think it's inherently the games. I think what you said that perfectly fits it. I think it's because it's a team thing, you usually like put the blame on other people. So like everyone thinks that they're not the toxic ones. But I also think this is I think it's also kind of is the nature of a game getting bigger and a community growing. I think speedrunning it wouldn't be as bad because it's not a team sport, but I think if speedrunning was as big and mainstream and had as many players as these like, you know, millions and millions of people, like the thing is just that like there are definitely like what people call toxic people, right, in the speedrunning community. But it's like, if it makes up, let's just say 1% of the community, if it's like 5 people, it's not a big deal, right? But when the community hits 1 million people, you know, and it's tens of thousands of people at this point, then like, I think that's when like it's a noticeable issue. So I think it's a combination of not a team sport, so like the mentality is better for each individual person, as well as it just being a smaller community.
True. Speedrunning is weird because I feel like it has, like, I don't feel like the speedrunning community is small, but it's like big in terms of viewers and not in terms of runners. Do you feel that gap, like, do you feel like that disconnect is there for like a good reason? I feel like there's so many people that will come into the chats and they'll be like, man, I respect speedrunners so much, they're so good, I could never do that. Do you feel like there's actually like a talent to speedrunning, or do you think that it's, you know, anyone can pick it up and get into speedrunning if they wanted to?
I think everyone can pick up speedrunning and get into it and do speedruns. I don't think everyone is capable of world record, depending on the game. Like, if you want to pick up Super Mario 64, for example, it does not matter if you put in literally more than a double amount of hours compared to cheese or simply. If you do not have a talent for it, it has pushed such a high limit that it doesn't just require the dedication, it also requires that extra 1%. And I think that's the way to look at talent. It's like talent will help you to get better faster. But if you're willing to put in the time, everyone can get good. But the only difference with the talent, if you know you put in the double amount of hours compared to the person who had the talent, it's never gonna make a difference until you get that 0.1%. But most speedruns, in my opinion, haven't reached that ceiling. Like Super Mario 64 is like one of those rare exceptions where it's been pushed to such an extreme. So I would say for the majority of speedruns, you can always become a top runner if you're willing to put in the time. And if you don't have the talent, you might have to put in more time for getting there. But I think everyone is capable of getting a top time in a game. But for the most optimized ones, not everyone might have the talent to specifically get a record. But I also feel like I think the record I think a lot of people overreact about the record mentality. But I think in general, the world record is so much less important than people realize.
Yeah, I think that's just like a viewer thing. It's just like from the outside perspective, world record is like the hypest thing ever. It's so impressive. You know, like that stereotype of like, oh, this guy got the world record and he says his run sucks. And it's just like, well, because it is bad. It's just that like it's the best that there is, but it, you know, I can do better. This guy can do better. You know, it's just that it hasn't been done yet. And there's definitely like a huge disconnect between like good and world record. Like those two things are not necessarily the same. There's also PBs that people think are good. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't value the like how good some times are. Like there's some accomplishments that aren't world record that are still like really impressive.
Yeah,
and people,
no, for sure. I mean, an easy example, sorry to cut you off, but I was just gonna say a great example of that was when I got sub 24 hours in Breath of the Wild 100%, and the tweet went like, at least for me, like semi-viral. It got over 10,000 likes, like by far the most liked tweet I've ever posted. And some people specifically that are like super into Breath of the Wild, like the really tight community, was like, why are people excited about this? This is like 5 hours behind a record at the time. But what I was gonna say was that if you take a Super Mario 64 speedrunner, if they have a 55-minute time, right, they're like 12 minutes behind. That does not matter. If you show that in front of a casual, they're gonna be impressed as hell. The way you do these jumps and the way you do this movement, it's gonna look good, right? So, and like that's also an important thing that you're bringing up, is that when you pick up speedrunning, you shouldn't compare yourself against other people. You should just worry about improving yourself, because in the end, world record is not that important. Like, I don't know how much you want me to get into the streaming aspect, but I also feel like people overreact the speedrunning, the viewership and the streaming aspect. A lot of people think world record is gonna get them there, but from my years of being on it, from seeing other people and myself, it's not like people think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I for one, feel free to talk about streaming stuff as much as you want, streaming or speedrunning. Usually they go hand in hand for most people. But I definitely feel like there are people who get world record and blow up, and they're not taking the streaming part as serious as they are the speedrunning part. Like, they think they're gonna get world record and then blow up on Twitch, but then they're not taking the streaming seriously. They just go back to playing the game like the same. They're not, they don't have a webcam, or maybe they don't even have a microphone. They just have world record, and I think that's just gonna blow them up. And it's just like, no, the world record gets you attention, but then you have to keep people there, and that's what separates the people with world records and the people with 2,000, 3,000 viewers and potentially world records. There's plenty of streamers that don't have the record who have more viewers because they're better streamers, not necessarily just better speedrunners. And they go hand in hand. Like, you can be a good streamer and a good speedrunner, but
yeah,
it's like very rare that speedrunning alone is what makes you a good streamer.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the two biggest speedrunners as of right now, if you want to count that, I would say it's Smallland and Clint Stevens. And Clint has been a little bit less active, but when he streams, he still does Super Mario 64. Neither of them have like world record. Like, neither of them go for it, because what they want to focus on is, this is the content in the background, which is the speedrun. And as long as they're fast, it's impressive to a viewer, right? Like Clint, I think he has a 49 now in Super Mario 64. Not close to a record in Super Mario 64 standards, but he's really good at the game. Anyone that's gonna watch it is gonna be mind blown. But he hooks them in by, hey, this looks impressive, but then people will continue staying because they think he's hilarious. He's Clint Stevens, he's funny, right? Same thing with Smallland, but yeah, Smallland has a very good community. People come in, they stick for the community, and they think Smallland is funny. And I think that's what it comes down to a record, is even the people that do get a record and do get that viewer boost, the thing is that, in my opinion, from what I've kind of seen, is that that's not even the kind of viewers you want. What I mean by that is that there's the only exception in my, since 2013 that I've ever seen with a record is Ocarina of Time. It's the only game I've seen where there's been so much new discoveries at such a consistent basis that people haven't been burnt out of it. Someone like CFG has been able to continue playing that game, but I have never ever seen another game where it has been that way. Every time people need to take a break and they get burnt out. And the thing is, even if you get 500 viewers playing your record game, if that's why you get viewers, when you switch over to another game, you're gonna have 20-30 viewers, and that's not what you want. So you should if you want to focus on the streaming aspect, you should get a good time, and that's good to get people in your stream. But exactly what you said, get them in the stream because it's hyped, you got a record or a good time, but make them want to stay because of you. So it's almost like the thumbnail for a YouTube video, right? The record is like the clickbait. They click on the stream. But then, you gotta have the good content to make them continue watching. You don't just want them to watch that one video and then, peace.
Exactly. I had something going into about just, keeping people on the stream, growth. I think you mentioned ZFG Ocarina of Time, right? And he's the only one who can really do that. I feel like SM64 is in a similar spot. where the game is just
well, SM64 is still a little bit different because, like, if you look, like, that's my point is, like, Simply, Cheese, the two biggest people, right, or Puncation, all three of them, they have taken multiple times month break.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Like, Simply, massive long break from SM64. Cheese got burnt out of it, didn't play the game for half a year, went back to, like, playing, I think he did a Call of Duty, Modern Warfare Warzone competitive. Yeah. And Puncation, massive break. Even Cheese now when he's back, he's been talking about the fact that he's slightly, like, burnt out of it. And I think it just comes down to the fact that you're kind of doing the same thing. Like, I mean, the only change in SM64 in the past 2 years was they do 2 stars in a different order now that saves 3 seconds. Like,
that's huge.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I think I was
Ocarina of Time. It's new.
Yeah, I was mostly using SM64 as, like, that game will always have viewers because it's just an impressive game that has built itself as the impressive, consistent speed game. And then I was going to go off into Enop, right? He's people would compare him to ZFG for MM, right? I feel like I've heard that comparison tossed around quite a bit. And even he seems to be bouncing around. He's playing Ocarina of Time. He's doing, like, every category in MM now. He can't just keep doing Hundo. I feel like most other games actually, like, just like as Twitch is evolving, all of the speedrunners who were known for one thing are moving on to different stuff. Everyone was picking up Minecraft for a while. People were all, like, I saw at one point there was like 7 different game streamers all running Ocarina of Time 100%. There was like you, Pope, Squidward, Axel, CFG. I think Cheese was running Hundo for Ocarina of Time.
Yep.
Yeah. Ian Miles. There was just like a huge. Everyone was just running Hundo, and it's just you have to do something else eventually. And even though you might not be the greatest at that game anymore, if you put in the time, you can still be impressive pretty quickly. And then it's just about being a good streamer, making it enjoyable for the people who are watching.
Sure.
My next question is, what game do you wish you were known for? Like, of all the speedruns you've ever done, I feel like, would you say you're known for Wind Waker HD?
I'd say I was only known as the Wind Waker guy for years. I would more say now I'm known as the Zelda speedrunner, honestly. Sure. But yeah, either Wind Waker or Zelda guy. If I could just, like, dream and not consider my time, I mean, like, if I could pick one game, I would.
Could go back to the start and be like, this is the guy I want to be known for. What game do you think you would pick?
Super Mario 64.
64.
I think Super Mario 64. If you look at Simply, great example, right? Simply kind of blew up recently, and because I think Super Mario 64 is one of the only games that expands past the speedrunning community. It's one of the only games where, number one, casual is, like, the best way I'll put it is this, and actually, like, I was discussing this with Small recently. We're gonna make a video, a thumbnail. We wanted to make a thumbnail and a glitch, and we're like, how do you take a still frame of a glitch and make it look impressive, right? And it's kind of the same thing with, like, speedrunning. It's like, if you look at a game like Tetris, the reasoning why Tetris is addictive and it's kind of fun for everyone is because it doesn't matter if you don't know the game. If you look at someone that's good at Tetris, it's gonna look impressive. Same thing with Super Mario 64. You don't even need to know the game. You just have to look at someone playing that game at a high level and be like, damn, that's impressive. If you look at Ocarina of Time and you're not into speedrunning or anything, you're gonna be like, okay, he's turning around.
He's flying backwards.
He's lost in the game. Yeah, like, it's not, like, it doesn't matter if the glitch is 5 frame perfect inputs in a row. As the caster's is gonna be like, okay, he rolled into a bomb and side hopped at the time. They don't realize they did 2 perfect inputs to do a mega side flip, right? Like, so because of that, I feel like I would love SM64 in that way. And, like, I think that's why it's one of the rare speedrun games that, like, appeals to a casual audience. I think that's also why Odyssey blew up so much, right? When that game came out, I'm not sure if you know it, but, like, everyone picked up Odyssey because, like, that was one of the few rare games that, like, blur the gap in between a casual and a speedrunner. as well. Because like in general, Mario games where it's pure movement based, if it's pure movement based, it's easier to make people impressed than a glitch heavy game.
Yeah, unless the glitches are like really, because like you're saying, it's hard to know this is impressive, but there are some glitches that I do feel like a casual can see that, excuse me, and just be like, oh wow, he's totally glitching, this is hilarious, or this is awesome. You know, I feel like when people see a Hess, they're like, what is this? He's flying backwards at high speeds, like this is crazy. Like there's some glitches, or Super Swim. I feel like Super Swim's another one where it's just like, it's visually appealing. You can tell what's going on is crazy. But
yeah, from my experience from like all the 3D Zeldas, the most like impressive ones I've seen would be like run warping and Ocarina of Time. That's the one glitch people like what about. In other games, I would say like item sliding when it comes to Super Swims, like you said, and then the most one I actually see is bomb impact launches in Breath of the Wild. Because I think so many casuals that play that game that when they see that people you can just kind of infinitely fly everywhere and like go super fast, like because it's an exploration game, it looks like a glitch where everyone that plays the game casually, which is almost everyone that will watch the game, will think, damn, I want to learn this because this would have been nice in my playthrough. So I think it really like appeals in like a very casual way, despite it like, and it's also pretty simple to do, so it's a pretty good glitch.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of off topic, but not really. SRM, I feel like is something that, you know, is blown up recently in all the N64 Zeldas. I feel like the biggest drawback to SRM is no matter how difficult it is, no matter how cool it is not fun to watch. It is a grind of a guy opening a chest for a long period of time. It's like in a category when you need to farm money for too long of time. I feel like in general, it's just hard to keep people entertained while you are standing still. You're not doing anything interesting. And you mentioned, like another example, you mentioned the Gorge Void in Twilight Princess earlier, right? This is a trick, frame perfect, loses you a minute if you fail. It's press a button, and it happens off screen. It happens during a screen transition. You don't even see the trick. It just happens.
Yep.
And even though it's frame perfect, no one cares. It's not interesting. It's not cool looking. It's just not interesting. And it's not impressive when you get it unless you know what's going on, which is not the casual viewer. Not everyone knows all the ins and outs of a speedrun. And they're just like, oh, you know, why'd you reset? It's like, oh yeah, I lost a minute. I didn't press the B button during this cutscene. I lost a minute, or A button, whatever. Yeah.
No, I was very sad by the SRM decisions in Ocarina of Time. I have very strong opinions about that.
Me too.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's when even though I'm a speedrunner, I'm definitely not someone. I still think we should value the entertainment aspect into the consideration when making decisions instead of just purity of the speedrun personally. Because even though I see a lot of people don't like to agree with this, but if you think about it, how does 99.99% of people get into speedrunning? It's through watching a streamer doing it. And if the game is boring, there's less viewers, which means less people will find it, which means it's going to be a slowly dying community. So the streamers literally keep the community alive. Don't get me wrong, the glitch hunters and the routers and all the people behind the scenes is what makes it possible for the streamers to do it. So it's like a very big community effort, but it's a slowly dying community because if there's not many streamers, it's going to be less glitch hunters, less routers, less viewers. Only out of 100 viewers, maybe one wants to pick it up. So if there's less, you know, like it's just slowly in a downward spiral. With SRM specifically, it's a great example of that where like it just, the glitch is not, the glitch is only entertaining if you know it at a fundamental basis. Like if you understand what makes SRM possible, it's a very impressive and cool glitch to watch. But for everyone else, which is the majority of people, I guarantee you, people that watch CFG, like you know, he maybe has an average now 2,000 viewers. I would be surprised if more than 200 of them could actually give me an explanation of what SRM actually is. Like honestly, like it's really, really hard. And I mean, I remember XQZ and I think XQZ and Summit1G, I think, tweeted about this. and it was like they were basically talking like smack about like Zelda speedrunning, because they were like Zelda, when it comes to Zelda speedrunning, the mainstream one is OT, right? So they use Zelda speedrunning to talk about OT, and they're like, Zelda speedrunning sucks now. You just stand still, turn around, and open chest and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, that's so unfair. You're not even part of this program. I'm like, no, this matters. This is the outside view that the game that we represent in the speedrunning community looks like to people now. It looks like we're not playing the game. It looks like we are literally, instead of playing the game fast, we are not playing the game anymore. We are completely doing something else. We're just in the game doing it. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I personally thought that just like usually games have a source requirement, I think instead of doing 100% and 100% no SRM, for example, I think all categories should have not done SRM, and then the side category is like 100% SRM. Because
I think
unfortunate thing about speedrunning, as a viewer, you might not think this is a big deal, but people care about this a lot. I can tell you this from being around so much. People care a lot about the leaderboard. A lot. And people care a lot about 100% and any percent. That's the main things. So if you have a side category, you might be like, oh, just make a new category, 100% SRM, no problem. No. I guarantee you, if you look at people that stream that game, it halted their viewers a lot. People do not care as much if it's a side category. That's just the nature of things. And because people care less, runners care about running it less. So,
I started out streaming actually as a no IM WW runner. And that was something I came to learn, is that this category is pretty cool. I really enjoy it. It's really fun. But I get more questions of what is this than anything else. It's just, what is no IM WW? You see any percent and it's just like, it's any percent. Everyone knows what that is. 100%? All right, you get 100% of the stuff. Once you start explaining what the run is, unless, you know, you're ZFG and you can just put MST in your title, and he's still got like a bajillion questions about, you know, what does this stand for? No matter how cool it is, that extra like barrier of understanding just keeps the more casual people out, which is unfortunate, but it's just the nature of difficulty. Like you're saying with the YouTube thumbnails earlier, you have a too complicated of a YouTube thumbnail, I'm not gonna click on it. It's too extra. One word, maybe a funny picture, I might click on that. It's the simplicity is just easier to digest at a face value. Once you get into it, it's fine and it doesn't matter. Like the thumbnail doesn't matter once you're watching the video, but the thumbnail matters before that, you know.
Oh, definitely.
On a like opposite side of this, so this was SRM and how we went in the direction of against viewership. On the other side, Wind Waker HD, you guys added something where you could have like a program that runs in the background for Sploosh Kaboom, right? Which is the opposite mindset of entertainment over like there's a word people like to use for purity. Purity. I hate purity. I hate it. I hate it when people say you have. Do you know how much it costs to get a copy of Twilight Princess on the GameCube? It's like $100.
$80.
So it's like $100. So people want to come into the community. The first thing they ask is, do I have to go buy an $100 game? And I'm just like, yeah, you do. We don't allow emulator. You have to play on a
capture card.
Yeah, you have to get a capture card. Well, actually, we say you can use your webcam. You can record with your phone camera. That's allowed. But you gotta be playing on a GameCube or a Wii with the disc. And I think that just keeps people from being interested. And I get that you want to keep the leaderboard fair, and that's fine. But like, this stuff matters. Getting more people in is important. That's how you get it. That's how you get it seen. That's how you get new glitch hunters. Like there could be a guy who wanted to play TP who couldn't get a disc, who could have been the guy who finds barrier skip, right? He could have been the next big whatever, and he isn't because he didn't have the money at the time. Those little bits of barriers are super, like, they're impactful. I, you know, going back to the Wind Waker HD thing, I wanted to hear your thoughts on that Sploosh Kaboom, because I know I had people who came to me and were like, wow, I can't believe they're allowing this. It's so against, you know, speed running. You know, RNG is a part of the game, blah, 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 blah. I'm a proud owner of an ESS adapter, by the way.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
no.
like we're doing this for fun. We should do things that make it more fun.
Definitely. Well, when it comes to the Sploosh Kaboom thing, we actually had to still find a compromise, actually, for the community for that exact thing. So, yeah, basically, I have always been, for people that don't know, I develop hand problems from Wind Waker, actually, because the gamepad. Nowadays it's fine because I be very careful with the controllers I choose and the hand grips and my diet and stuff like that, but I used to have very bad hand problems. So ever since that happened, I changed my mentality completely to it should be more about the fun and the runner health, and more that should take priority over just the purity, as long as it doesn't ruin the spirit, of course. So when it came to the Sploosh Kaboom thing, for people that don't know, basically there's a mini game and it's Sync to Battleship. I'm sure a lot of people played it as a kid, Battleship. The issue in this game though is that the odds are incredibly bad. The board is massive, you only have 24 shots, you have to beat it under 20 shots. When we ran calculations, even if a computer played statistically the best shots with a 1 minute time loss in the speedrun, you only had a 25% chance of getting past that part in the run with a minute time loss, and that's a computer doing it. Then there's no way a human will do the most optimal statistical shots every time as well, right? Because if you find one squid, it changes so drastically. There's no way a human could just oh yes, right? So it was just horrible. So we wanted to make a tool for it because we reverse engineered the game and figure out there was a way to make this better. And the first version was actually going to be super user friendly. It was anyone could have used it, and it was basically screen capturing the game either to Dolphin or OBS, and it would automatically update it. So basically it was an overlay so that it would just screen capture, see where you shot, and then it would update it automatically, and then it could just tell you this is where you should shoot, right? That ended up being super against people because it was technically getting information from the game. So we made a second version where now it's completely disconnected from the game, the console, everything. So you have to now one-hand the controller, and you would have to have one hand on the keyboard, and then you shoot, and then if it hits or miss, I use the other hand to indicate in the program if I'm hitting or missing. And that was ended up being about a 70-30 split. So still not most people were still kind of against it, but it still ended up passing in the vote. Because at least it wasn't interacting with the game at all. It was a remote program, kind of like a metronome is kind of how we saw it, right? But that's another thing. It's the consistency and purity again, because the reasoning I wanted the screen capture, for me it doesn't really matter. I'm willing to practice and put it in, but now you have to do tons of test runs to figure out the RNG value you have, and the settings that's personally good for you. You have to get within a 0.1 second precision on pressing the buttons with your controller. So just because we couldn't allow the screen capture, you now only almost top runners can only use this program, or you have to put a lot of time just practicing how to use the tool, because people were scared that if we allowed, they were just well, if you allow screen capture for this one thing, why can't we make a screen capture program to check for angles or to check for this or that? Basically, people were saying that you can't just allow this for one thing and not everything else. And I'm why? That doesn't make any sense. We allow Homebrew to change the language to Italian. That doesn't mean I can use Homebrew for cheating the game, right? Just because we allow something for one thing. But that's just kind of the mentality of speedrunning. And thankfully, we did find a compromise, and like I said, it definitely helps benefits. I could sometimes sit for literally 4 days in a row without getting a single round past the half-hour mark. But I will say it helped the viewership of Wind Waker HD 100% a ton. It helped people be more interested in the game because people didn't want to run. It's already still a lot of RNG, but removing the biggest RNG factor, more people want to run it now. So overall, it's just allowing this one thing, and it's the same thing when you mentioned the ESS adapter. It modifies the analog stick input to make it easier to do like a trick called an extended super slide, ESS positioning on the controller. And even though it may be slightly cheating, it makes more people want to run it because the movement sucks without like being able to do that, just walking and running everywhere. So allowing that makes the speedrun better, even if it goes against the purity. And I think more people in speedrunning should allow that. For sure. I recently actually hired someone to develop a remapping tool for WWHD to help people with hand problems, and also specifically like zombie hovering and manual super sim would be easier if you allow this. From the current, we haven't voted yet, but looking at everyone's statements, people hate it because they were like, for example, like lifting off on a zombie hover, you could map it so that you could like mash one button instead of timing one and then the other. And they were like, I put so many hours into learning this, so like, and I felt it was an accomplishment, and other people have an easier time learning this. And I was just like, hey, I feel you. I spent all this time learning this too. But look at how many active runners we have on WWHD. It's not that many. It's already a ceiling because no one owns the Wii U and we don't allow homebrew. So already almost no one can pick up the game. And the people that can, they will try zombie hovering, not get it, and not want to pick it up, or manual super swim. So even if it's technically speaking, yes, we have to go through the dozens of hours to practice this, don't you think it's better for the overall community if we just allow this tool? Fortunately, I don't think it's going to be allowed now because, you know, it gives an advantage. But my kind of thought process was that it doesn't give you an advantage over what someone could do without the tool. So you're never required to use the tool, right? It's never faster to use the tool compared to someone that doesn't. It's just that it makes it easier to learn the game. And then I personally, for me, I don't see the issue. But people have a problem with that.
I think it's the sunken cost fallacy.
Yeah.
The idea of just like, I suffered, you should suffer too. Most of America deals with this problem on a holistic scale. It's it's not very fun. I don't understand anyone. I don't understand this concept, because just like the way that I try to fight back with this is just like, what if when you were learning this, you were putting in all those hours, what if it was just easy? Well, because it's not like they're going, now these new people are going to be ahead of you because they have this tool. They are just not going to have to suffer through this to be able to play this game. You're still going to be better. They're not going to get your movement. They're not going to get your knowledge. You can use the tool too. They don't have an advantage over you. You're just mad because you put time into something. The tool,
and even if you don't use the tool, you'll be at the same playing field. Like, they might learn it faster, but there's still no advantage because you already learned it. So like for you, like, there's going to be a one-to-one there. Like, there's no tricks that's possible with the tool that isn't without it, right?
Yeah, where it's not like we're saying you can just pass it or something. No. Yeah. So, everyone, we're just giving you a script. Everyone just run the script. It's free. Like, it's still competitive. It's just, we're making it so that more people can do it, which just makes it more fun. It makes it more interesting. I don't know. People just really don't want to be I don't know. They're just, I feel like with a lot of speedrunning stuff, especially in Zelda games, I feel some of the tricks are just so hard and like technical that when people grind them out for hours and hours and hours, like, there is that sense of accomplishment, but then you're just like, like, this is the trick I do, you guys, if you're going to learn this game, you're gonna have to grind this trick out for hours, days. And it's just like, why? What if we have a different one? I feel, back to the SRM thing, like, I feel like another reason why that really hurt those games is because there were people who grinded all these categories for so long, and then all of a sudden, they're gone. I actually learned the category all dungeons the week before SRM was found, was when I finished learning all dungeons. And then I saw SRM, they saw him moving the door, and I just like unplugged my N64, I threw it somewhere else, I put my TP disc into the Wii. And, a couple months later, they're no longer moving a door around, they're opening up invisible chests in, where was it originally? Like, the Goron City or whatever? Yeah, it's just like...
But no. But I'm definitely on like a more of an extreme scale. Like, even like manual super swim in Wind Waker, you have to like do a frame perfect input 200 times. Literally every single person that's ever done this trick has complained that their hands have hurt and they've had to take breaks because of how much it hurts. It is so physically bad and demanding for your hands. But if you do it enough, you can get to a state where, you know, like you're kind of consistent enough to where it doesn't hurt your hands anymore. But everyone will experience hand pain going through this, right? And it's still not like, it's not fun for viewers to watch. It's still not good for your hands, and it's just overall a bad experience. And no one wants to pick up the game. The average time to learn that trick is like 50 plus hours. So literally all you're doing is pausing your game. No one wants to do that. So I, for a long time, was like, we should allow that you can map the analog stick to a digital button, because it would literally be free to do the trick. And people's issue with that is that it's slightly faster than a human would do it, and I get that, and that's why I mean I'm more on the extreme scale. But I'm kind of, and also people were saying that, you know, like if I put 1,000 hours more into this trick, I could save 10 seconds over you on the pausing. And kind of my mentality is like, but do you want to be better at playing the game, or do you want to be better at known for you can pause the game slightly better? And like that's kind of the thing too. It's just like, if there's a trick that is like an average 50 hours to learn, just do it. Not even optimally, just do it. Don't you think, even if it's like technically speaking cheating, do you think it's better to just make it so that everyone can speedrun this game? Because speedrunning the game without this trick sucks, because the route sucks. There's 30 minutes of cutscenes you have to go through. No one wants to do this. So like that's another thing where I'm just like almost like, it's with the ESS adapter, even an ESS adapter, if you could just like change the dead zone, 10,000 easier as well, right? And just so many small things that you can make this trick easier and faster, and better for your hands and everything. But yeah, if it's, the mentality is if it's not possible in official hardware, not allowed, right?
Yeah. And it's a shame the way this like affects other communities too. I don't know how familiar you are with like Super Smash Bros. Melee. They've been struggling with this stuff for a long time. You know, slightly different. Slippy getting shut down by Nintendo. Not like Slippy itself, but it was that tournament that got shut down for using Slippy more or less. And then people have been trying. Do you know about Pokemon Stadium? Right?
Yeah.
People have been trying to freeze Pokemon Stadium since I picked up Smash Brothers in like 2013 or something. And I've been for it the whole time. And people are just so against it. And it's just like, why? The stage transformations are random in a game where people just go on and on about how pure skill it is and incredible. Oh my god, it's just the, you know, the holy testament of skill just in general. People go off about that. But then there's a stage where you can just fall through the center of it that we can fix, but we don't want to because that's not pure. And it's just so... I feel like, in general, most speedrunning communities really struggle with polling for these ideas because there's just such a disconnect between speedrunning purity and, like, speedrunning is a fun hobby that we do. And for some people, you know, like yourself, speedrunning is not just a fun hobby that you do. This is your job, right? I feel like, you know, or making content is your job, but a part of that is speedrunning. And it's just like, I'm trying to, like, you know, go through it. Like, you want to have fun doing this, but also you want other people to get into this. That's how you keep people interested, and it's just so unfortunate that these other people, that it does not affect them as much as it affects you. Like, this is, like, literally your livelihood, that the thing that you do stays interesting, and it could just die at any moment because there could be some new Wind Waker SRM that's found, and the admins decide this is allowed, we're not changing any categories, it's just allowed in every category, and then your game is dead and you have to learn some whole new thing, and it's just, you know.
I mean it's almost like if you ran like 100 meters in like the Olympics, it's almost like saying that like the shoes help you an advantage, so you should be barefoot because that's, you know, like the tools that like you're provided with, right? Or if you look at even just like RNG and like the most serious sports Olympics, I think it's something crazy. Like out of like the most like six most recent were records in the 100 meters. I think 5 out of 6 of those happened to be on an open field where the wind was blowing in the direction of where the runners was running, which is like, it's like a random RNG element, but at the same time, it's like they're not going to build a roof and be like so strict about it that it's like no wind can help you, right? Like even
that guy was wind assisted.
Exactly. Like I don't know. I mean, in general, I think the gaming community is slightly different, like standards. I mean, it's like if you get banned, it's a permanent ban. It's well, like even in sports, it's like, you know, like they give you like a 6-month, you know, suspension, right? Or like even a year. they would never do like the things, you know, like in esports, whereas like Valve, if you cheat one time or if you do something weird champ one time, it's like permaban rest of your life. You're never coming back.
Yeah. It depends on how weird champ, but that I agree. You know, there's some people that definitely are like, yeah, these are bad for the community. I feel like the CSGO Valve team that got banned in like 2013, 2014, I Buy Power. I can't believe those guys got perma-banned for this.
Yep.
I think they cheated for like $1,000 or something. It was like really small.
Yeah.
Let them pay a fee.
You could bet on skins at the time, like on a third-party website. So they basically threw the game to win like $1,000 worth of skins. And like, yes, they should set a precedence, be like, hey, 2-year ban, because it literally even is a 2-year ban. If you look at how much money these players are making, if they think about the risk versus the reward, they realize that, holy crap, dude, like, never worth it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been enough. But yeah, no, Valve was just like flat out like permaban, like that's it, right? So yeah, no.
Linkus, I was watching you last night. You were nut jumping for a long time, and I wrote it. I have a question that literally came from watching you do that for like 4 hours. What is the hardest trick that you have ever done in your, 8 years of speedrunning?
Yeah.
This is a threefold question. Hardest trick you've ever done, hardest trick you've ever learned, because I feel like those are two different things. Like sometimes learning a trick, like getting it the first time, is way harder than like, you know, being able to do it over and over and over. And then what's the hardest one you've ever done in a run, rather than just like, oh, I did this once, it's RTA possible, pass only for runs.
Interesting. The hardest trick I ever learned was manual super swim. Took me about 40 hours to get a single time. I was about to say manual super swim to both, but the way you phrased that question was kind of interesting, because I agree with you. After I finally learned it, it's not the hardest anymore. It's hard to learn, but once you get it, it's actually easier. It's not easy, but it's a whole lot easier.
It's a tempo thing. You build that consistency with it, and then...
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to like hardest trick I've ever done, I honestly am not exactly sure. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't like, that's a really hard thing to pinpoint one trick. The hardest trick I've ever like used to have to do, I would probably say would have to be door clip, which is an old trick in Wind Waker, because not only was it RNG and frame perfect, you also had to hold a perfect value left angle, which might seem easy, but there's no notches. And this analog stick on the Wii U, it registers way more inputs than even a GameCube controller. This is like a super sensitive analog stick. So having to hold a value perfect left, and then on top of that as well, if you got it, it was RNG if you had a 0 to a 2 frame window to frame perfectly press the B button. And the time that it happened was random, so you had to pause buffer it and wait to react to you clipping to then press B within the 0 to 2 frame window. That's probably the hardest trick I've ever had to do, and like it just, my god, that it sucked.
God, that sounds rough. Alright.
What was the third one again?
The third one was just the hardest one we've done in a run, which it looks like that's it. That one there.
That would be the same, yeah.
Yeah. Because this might be more unique to, I don't know, other categories have this, something like carpetless, right? SM64 has this trick that like, Zaya's done it. Why aren't you doing it in runs? It's been done. It's RTA possible. And it's like, no, it's not. Similarly, Twilight Princess has Style Lord skip and Small Key skip. Two tricks that are in a task that are really old. There is now one person who has successfully done Style Lord skip RTA, but you still can't do it, right? There's like that bridge of tricks where it's just like, this is hard. This is hard to learn.
Yeah.
And then, like you're saying, manual super swim was hard to learn, but it's easy to do. Twilight Princess is plagued with something very similar, where sword and shield skip and early master sword are two tricks you have to learn. You have to get, you're not speedrunning Twilight Princess if you're not doing these tricks. You're basically playing casually, because they completely changed the game. But they are hard. There's RNG in both of them. It's reacting. But then once you learn it, it's second nature, more or less. There's still like that RNG and stuff, but it gets pretty easy despite it being really hard to learn. So I wanted to talk about the other kinds of tricks you've experienced that are like that. And it sounds like Wind Waker's had a few. And manual super swims, you know, I wanted to learn Wind Waker. I couldn't learn the manual super swim. I gave up. It was too taxing. Like, you know, I'm not quite Linkus level over here. So I got
Sword
tired.
and Shield Skip is a good example.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, no. Sword and Shield Skip is probably top 5 hardest glitches I've actually learned. Mostly because of the fact that it's a trick where the timing changes based upon so many small factors. So it's something where, like, it took me, I think, 6 or 7 hours to do it the first time, but then it started to get a lot easier. So it's another thing where it's like one of the worst things to learn, but when you've learned it, it's not as bad. Yeah. Because it's like, if it was just like a consistent like two input button, it would be like fine. But like, depending on where the bokoblin is, which is RNG, you have to change your like timing based upon it, and that's like kind of the variable that makes it so much harder to do then.
Yeah. There's also, I don't know when you learned it, but there was a huge lack of information just like out in the world. I think this is like the biggest problem in speedrunning is just the fact that there's some guy in his room who knows everything about this game, and ZSR or the Discord has like a third of that information or half that information. A majority of what I've learned from speedrunning is from some random, or like the world record holder just showing up in chat and being like, oh, by the way, this is super easy if you do it like this. And you're like, oh, why isn't there a YouTube video or a tutorial? Why is there no information about how to do this? It's just, this guy knows it. And he told his buddies.
Exactly.
And
yeah, no, I felt very similar. Like there was one tutorial on Sword and Shield Skip, but it didn't mention everything either. There's a lot of small things I didn't know. But yeah, no, I definitely agree on that. It's definitely a friend told me kind of a situation in a lot of pieces.
All right. I have a couple more questions. I wanted to know, of all the speedrun categories that you run, and this is categories, not games, how would you rank top 3, top 5 of all time favorite categories that you've ran?
Not based on difficulty, just the most fun I've had.
Yeah, just your favorites. Like, I liked this the most.
Gotcha. Well, my answers would be very biased towards it's fun to stream a lot of hours, obviously, since full time. I actually would say that Breath of the Wild 100% is surprisingly fun once you have learned the route. And I know that sounds like monk-ass to almost everyone because it's like learning 900 Koroks. But once you've learned all the Koroks by heart, it's like, it's just autoplay. And then it feels like I'm just sitting and talking to chat and I'm having constant refreshing content for 20 hours. I think that's a lot of fun. But if I don't specifically look at that in that way, I would say that some of the most fun speedruns I've learned, I mean, obviously for me, Wind Waker HD, either one of the categories, honestly, very fun. Other stuff too would be like, I think a lot of fun was Sunshine. Sunshine is a great game to pick up, very fun movement, also very nice to pick up in the beginning, because a lot of games are boring at the start, and if you get good, it get fun. Sunshine is one of those games where if you like miss a jump, you hold in Flood, you hover, you save yourself from death, right? So it's still fun to do as a casual, or as like a new player, but still fun. Same thing, Link's Awakening on the Switch. I had a blast from day one speedrunning that game because the movement feels very satisfying with the running button, so it's not a crazy glitch you have to do. So the movement feels very satisfying just when you're brand new to the game. And the glitches for a beginner route are very, very cool, and they didn't take me that many hours to learn. So it was a quick speedrun to learn and pick up completely, and I think that would be another game as well. And last game, if it was top 5, would be...
it was 3 or 5. Sometimes people can't pick a top 3. You know?
Yeah, no, I would say those games.
Too many. All right. I honestly, I wouldn't have expected Link's Awakening. I know that game kind of blew up as a speedrun when that game released, but I felt like it died down within like 2 months.
Definitely did.
I remember there was some like chain chomp RNG thing that was found, and then it got really annoying.
Yeah, no, some of the newer glitches are very like difficult, and it's annoying at a top level to do. So like, I still recommend people to this day. People ask me what's the best Zelda game to pick up. I say if you have a Switch and you like Link's Awakening, do Link's Awakening in the Switch and do the beginner route. Because as long as you don't do the newer glitches, so much fun. The newer glitches though, yeah, it's like double, triple frame perfect, BS, position perfect, have to do insane setups. Yeah, no fun, but
it's crazy how once you get good at stuff, things stop being as fun.
Yeah,
all to get those, save those frames.
Exactly.
So where do you think you'd see yourself if you weren't a full-time streamer? Like there was some point in your life where you were doing this and you were like, wait, like this is my job now. Like this is it. I don't know if you had that moment. I guess it's a separate question I kind of wanted to ask. Is like, did you have a moment where you're just like, whoa, I'm a streamer. I'm gonna play video games for my job. So did
dreamed of it.
What?
I've always dreamed of being like a full-time content creator. Obviously, like I started with YouTube as a 10-year-old, got my Twitch account at 13, started streaming consistently when I was 14. And obviously, even though it was a dream, I never really expected, you know, to like get it, if that makes sense. You know, be like a streamer. If I wasn't a streamer, I did finish my degree, so I'm a nurse. That is my degree and that's my education. So I'm probably working as a nurse. That's probably what I would do. I don't know if it's necessarily what I would want to do the most. I was very, very burnt out of school. So I would have loved to be a doctor in the future. That's kind of what my dream was to become a doctor. But I'm very happy and fortunate that I got this job I did, because the honest truth is that I would have had I was at a point in my life where like I knew that I didn't want to work as a nurse for the rest of my life. It was something I wanted to do, but not for the rest of my life, and I had no way to go back to school. So it's kind of at a predicament where I was like, I don't know what the hell I want to do with my life, really. I guess I just temporarily work as a nurse and go by, basically, and figure it out. Thankfully, though, I got partner right before I graduated. So, yeah, so the second I graduated, I just straight went to streaming. I wasn't able to make a living off of it yet. It was kind of a gamble. I'm not sure if you like. I think a lot of people not really realize this, but you know, Twitch takes a cut and there's taxes and everything. So like, if you're a partner, you're not gonna comfortably be able to live off that. Even when I started and I was a partner and I had like the 250, 300 subs, I could barely pay my rent. I basically couldn't buy anything. I had support from my parents because they're very, very supportive. And about half of my meals were ramen. I ate ramen literally about 4 to 5 days a week because I just could not afford food with that amount of subs. And also it's very stressful because you have to rely on like donations and bits, and you don't know if you're gonna get enough, and it's just a very stressful time. So I don't really know where I would be. I'd probably just be working as a nurse and just struggling with life, hoping that like I get the motivation to go back to studying. So I'm very happy I was able to become a full-time content creator, so I didn't have to worry about figuring it out.
That's hype. I love hearing about the like, oh, you know, I wanted to dream of this since I was 10. You know, it's cool to see people achieve their dreams. You know, not everyone. I feel like most people have like their dream that they have, and the dream that they tell people. It's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to play video games for a living. Like those are the two. You know, you don't tell your you don't tell your girlfriend's parents, I want to play video games for a living. You say, I want to be a doctor. But it's cool. Playing video games for a living is cool, and like, it's fun. And it's interesting, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, you know, not to say that there's more streamers or more doctors than streamers or something. You know, they're both impressive for different reasons. But it's just, I don't know. There's so much there's so many people who try to be a big streamer, and to be able to actually achieve that is like really, you know, unique and cool and impressive. And also, not many people have the support that you had. You said your parents are very supportive. I know lots of people
my
don't have that.
My parents were very open-minded. They used to be against it, but when they realized around 2015, 2016, I was betting all in on this kind of aside of studying. My dad went from, instead just like having this mindset of time waste to I'm gonna look into this. So he, on his free time, he started looking up Twitch, he started looking at communities, the Zelda community, speedrunning. He understood that it was just not just playing a video game. I think it could be something, but it's very unlikely. I'm not just sitting alone in my room playing video games, but there's a community to it. So my dad like actually put a lot of studying time into it, and then he a very open-minded person. And it was kind of a similar thing when I graduated. I was like, Dad, I want to do this full time. But I needed like my parents, like, you know, kind of like a little bit of financial support, you know, not a lot. I think we agreed on like $200 a month because to do that, because I was going to move out. And my parents were like, we could do that because, I mean, you're costing us that anyways, just living at home anyways right now, right? Anyways, but we made an agreement. It was like, we'll do this for 1 year. So you can like pursue your dream as much as you want full time for 1 year. After that, like, you know, maybe part-time, but like you got to get a job, some money into it. So they were like, we'll support you with $200 a month for 1 year straight, or support you fully, and if it doesn't work out. And I was on the brink of not even making it, because like the thing is with streaming and content creation, you can be the most entertaining person ever and you will never be found. You need to put in the time and dedication, you need to be entertaining, and you need the luck. You cannot get away without the luck. There is a big luck aspect. So for me, my luck aspect was I got offered front page. Literally what was happening was I basically had no money in my bank account left. I contacted my parents. I was like, hey, I have to move back home. I have to become a nurse. But I was like, but I already bought my ticket to GDQ, so I had to go to GDQ because I wasn't gonna get a refund on that. And that GDQ, I happened to meet a staff member. He happened to offer me front page, and that grew my stream just enough so that I could live off of it. So I was ready to like drop full-time streaming, and it just happened to get the opportunity in the last second. But I could have not met that person, not got a front page, and even if I could have been here now, I wouldn't have even had the opportunity because I wouldn't have been able to. So there's a lot of luck involved for sure. But yeah, all you can do is increase it.
Do you think luck is more important, or do you think there were things that you could have done differently? I don't know if you saw Ludwig recently had like a whole thing on like how to be a big streamer, like how to get there. And he went on like you got to have content, you got to have varying content was another thing, and then you need to do stuff with other people. Something that he said. Did you think you were doing all that you could to grow, or were you just trying to stream? I'm mostly saying this because I feel like there are a lot of streamers. There's a lot of streamers who I feel like they're speedrunning, right? And they're speedrunning, and they have good times, and they're just like, why don't I have viewers? I'm streaming, and like I used to do this. I used to be 9 to 5. I'm just speedrunning my game, and that was it. And it was just like, man, I chat, and I think I'm fun and happy. I think I have what these other people have. You know, why aren't I getting more viewers? And it's just how many people are looking for you. Your speedrunning is a niche thing. Speedrunning community is decently large, but it's split across all these different games. You need to do something to find other people, and you need to do something that makes other people come to you in some way, shape, or form. So long story short, like, do you think there was something you could have done so you didn't have to rely on luck?
By the way, great thing. Everyone that's listening to this, if you want to be a streamer, Ludwig, very good. I really recommend everyone to check that one out. Like a really quick TLDR, basically, he gives it to you straight. A lot of people like to sugarcoat it, but he will openly say, if you don't do this, you're not gonna make it. If you do this, you're not gonna make it, right? So I think if you can take the truth, really, really good listen. That being said, now, how I would say it is, number one, I could have done things better, of course. Looking back, definitely, I should have put more. Like I should have. The main thing I did wrong back then was not my content. It was that I should have put slightly less hours into streaming and put some of those more into YouTube. Probably because I was literally just streaming 24/7 basically. That's the one thing I probably, looking back, should have done differently. It's like the main and like kind of only thing I feel like I did wrong when it comes to growth.
Yeah. When I say wrong, I mean just like, do you think, just different?
Yeah,
just
I could have done better.
time?
Yeah, definitely. I should have, instead of streaming 10, 11 hours a day, because a lot of people are like, oh, I should just stream more or whatever. Should have instead, it's better to stream for less hours and put the other content into content in other perspectives, because it's more efficient than just grinding streaming for like a buttload of time. But yeah, no. So I could have done that differently for sure. I think when it comes to the luck aspect and if it's required, I think it's all a lottery. Ludwig did a lot of right things, but it's still a lottery and he still got lucky. The way I like to look at it is, for example, great thing is a YouTube video. If you upload a YouTube video, just upload it. You have a 1 in a million chance lottery ticket of this being picked up by the algorithm. If you now advertise this correctly with a good thumbnail and title, you just made this 1 in 100,000 chance. You just greatly increased your odds. If you now also make it such an addictive video, you had such a good hook in the beginning that people wanted to watch the whole thing, you now made this a 1 in 1,000 chance of being picked up. So you can do a lot of things to increase the chance of it, but there's no guarantee. If Ludwig could have been the exact same person on everything he did, and he might have not stick to the wall, right? So I think it comes a lot down to luck, but you can do a lot of things to improve it. And the thing too is, and I've seen this before, I'm not going to say any names, but from being around so long time, I remember a guy back in 2016 got really good friends with a staff member. He got offered tons of front page, like a ton of it, like way more than I've ever been offered front page. Like this guy was getting slammed on front page left and right, but he wasn't that entertaining of a streamer. So he got all the opportunities. He got handed all the luck part of it, right? But when he got his shot, he blew it. That's what I put it, right? So like the thing is, you can't just be lucky, but you can't also not have any luck. So the better you are at marketing yourself and the more entertaining you are constantly increasing the chances of this luck happening, but you will never be able to guarantee it. That's the way I'll put it.
Yep, love it. I have one more question before we're gonna move on to the speed date part. You stream a lot. Not just you stream a lot, you work a lot. When I saw you alive for 11 hours yesterday with this planned at whatever time it is for you right now, I was just like, dang, like this guy's got a full schedule. And like most of the time that we were DMing each other, I felt like I could almost feel the weight of your time, like in the messages. It was just like you're a busy guy, you got stuff to do. Do you have like a secret to this? Do you have like how do you essentially just work like 24/7? Because I feel like if I don't see you live, I feel like you're networking with someone, or you're making a YouTube video, or you're editing something, or you're learning some trick. How do you do that?
Yeah, I give myself about an average. I give myself about half a day worth of free time per week. I would say that's about my average. I like to give myself maybe half an hour free time a day, something like that. I like trying to work about 70 hours a week. My secret. Well, okay. I could break it down a little bit, but I was gonna first say for all the viewers out there, I don't recommend. This is not healthy. But no. What I'll just say is just that it's a never-ending grind. It's a never-ending grind. I remember when I started streaming, I thought if I only had 500 subs, I would be able to just pay my rent, my food, I'll be happy. I don't have to do this stupid grind like I'm now. I have to work myself to death. And then I hit that, and then it's like, no, like it never ends. That's what you realize. It never ends. And it's not. Yeah, exactly. And it's not even the money aspect. If anything, I'm not a huge fan of that in general. Like I financially support my brother through his college now. Like that's literally when I made more money, all I did was I helped my brother more. I instead of him getting a student loan, I was like, here you go. I don't want you to take a loan, right? Like I help my parents every month. I basically, in my opinion, I have this very Swedish mentality, of like, I don't need like, no one should make more than what they need basically, right? But either way, so it's never been that, but even with that being said, there's just something about like, I guess I just want to thrive to being bigger to a point to where I can stream anything and be comfortable. Like a dream would be able, like I could just go live, sit and chat, meme around with chat. And if I could just do that and still have a great amount of viewers, I'm happy, right? That's kind of what I want to get to. And that's why I keep working, because I just want to get to a point where I can play anything and I can do anything. That's my long-term goal. And then you need a really high base to be able to hit that. That's I think why I keep working so much.
I think the biggest mistake...
My secret on...
Yep. You're good.
No, keep going.
I was gonna say, I think the biggest mistake any streamer ever makes is they make that jump too soon. Is they go to, I want to play whatever I want. I got 100 viewers, this is fine. And then they jump. Now they got 30. Then they go, oh crap, and they go back to their old thing, and they get 40. And they're like, what happened to my 100 viewers? What? I did all that work. Can't jump too early. Just quick tidbit.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest mistake. Well, actually, one of the biggest mistakes.
Quick tidbit advice for everyone for that. The click and bait method for that's how I started switch over. What you should do because you're never going to be able to just play one game, you're going to get burnt out. The one thing every streamer should do is never, if you're known for one game, like you with TP, never go live with a different game. Even if you're slightly tired, go live with the game you're known for, get the 100 viewers, and then don't take a 10-minute break. Just like literally play and then be, okay guys, we're gonna play this. Switch over in a minute because there's gonna be a decent chunk of people that's gonna give you 5-10 minutes of chance and be like, oh, this is pretty fun still, and they'll keep watching. And if you do that enough, then when you finally do make the switch or clicking on it, enough people have been baited and switched to wanting, like just being used to watching the other thing, they'll still click on the stream.
Yep. It also plays the trajectory. Twitch is top heavy. The guy with the most viewers is the person who gets the most new viewers. That's just how it works. You're the top of the chain. So if you have 200 and you switch to this fun new game, or 2,000, you switch to this fun new game, everyone who wants to watch that fun new game is gonna find you. And those people were not looking for your speed game. They were looking for some other random game. They would have never found you if you weren't playing something else. But you can't do that without. You gotta do it right. You gotta do it right.
Either way, that quick tip from TLDR for the viewers out there. But yeah, no, my tip is gonna sound unhealthy, but kind of just I'm just very determined. I'd say very determined is the number one thing. It's a big determination, and then also I think to be able to work so many hours, not only do you have to be very passionate about what you do, of course, which I obviously am. For what I've experienced, it's like if you're so focused and determined on something, like a good example is like, have you ever have been having a blast, or you're super focused on a speed run, and then you're like randomly like the run dies, you're done streaming, you're like, holy crap, I'm a bit hungry. Oh shit, it's been 10 hours since I ate food. Like, I'm sure a ton of people, like, with studying or fun stuff in general have sometime experienced something like that, where, like, even something as small, like, as important for yourself as food, you're so focused and you're not letting yourself mentally even think about the fact you're hungry, you don't realize it until, like, it's been 12 hours since you ate food. And unfortunately, I would say that's kind of how I work so much, is that I'm so focused and so determined that I don't really stop to let myself really think more. I don't really stop and think like, man, am I tired? Because clearly I am not sleeping enough to work this much, or oh man, like I'm exhausted. It's like, no, I can't let myself stop and like think this. I work, and that's kind of how I work so much. And like you said too, a lot of people think, like, for example, like, oh, but you waste so much money on your coffee because you use pods now, and I'm like, yes, but it saves me time. And they're like, you're such a speeder and make a meme out of it. But for me, it's like, no, my time is the most precious thing. I'd rather spend more money on takeout food than and coffee pods if that saves me, and not having to do dishes and cooking. And then people are like, it's fun, and I'm like, yeah, but I work so much that if I can clear up half an hour in a day just by this, it's worth all the money in the world to me, because I work so much that if I could just clear up half an hour of my time, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, 2 hours. You know, you get rid of 30 minutes a day. Like personally, I think I need like an hour of free time a day. I didn't come from a Call of Duty background. I came from MOBA background. But I love playing me some MOBAs. I play one a day. I wake up at 5 a.m. so I get my one game in. That's my me time. It's 5 a.m. And then it's
nice
on the grind. Get stuff to do. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting perspective of just like once you get to a point where you transfer the money to time, like literally, like it's money is time. So you skip out on, you know, maybe in a better coffee, you know, oh, it's better if you use a French press or something. All right. But you know, this is good enough and it lets you keep going.
You know, that I would say, like, in general, like, I definitely agree with you. It's like, the small mundane things, definitely, like, the money can help you with that for sure. And, like, the thing is, too, is, like I said, I don't like thinking about money, but in the end, it's also just, like, I mean, even for, like, you know, like, even if you're working at, like, McDonald's, you make, I don't know, like, $12 an hour, right? If you consider the amount of time you would spend cooking the food, and you'd spend the time, you know, like buying the groceries and like, you know, everything, like if it costs you $5 to make a normal meal at home, right? But with all the dishes, the cooking, everything, if that takes you 40 minutes, even with like a $12 an hour job, technically speaking, if you buy takeout for $9 or $10, it costs you $6 more, but if you technically speaking put that time you straight up into work, it technically didn't lose you any money. Does that make sense? Like even with just a standard job. Because I mean, yeah, you know, you saved 40-50 minutes doing that. So with that in my head, it's just like, because I work so much, it just makes sense to me. It's just like, if I spend a little bit more on takeout food instead, it's worth my time.
Exactly. So I'm going to move on now to the questions from the community. So fun fact, when I started this show in August, the questionnaire allows you to put in any speedrunner. It's just like, you know, who is your question for? I actually had a question for you while I was pulling questions for Connor75. The very first episode, I actually had one question for Small Ant and two for Linkus7.
Nice.
The one for Small Ant was, yes, I still have them. I'm going to share the one for Small Ant because it's really funny. I know you're friends with him. And it was, do you have a girlfriend? if you can ask for them, that'd be, I'm sure he would appreciate it. I don't remember the name, but I did enjoy that someone asked me, someone asked me to ask Small Ant if he has a girlfriend. And the one for you was actually from Kanye47_. Do you ever get bored when doing long runs, or because you've done the run so many times? It's just the same thing over and over again. That's the full question.
Okay, I guess keeping questions slightly faster, I assume.
Yeah.
No, because since I do them so much, it's all muscle memory. So for me, I don't really think about me playing the game. The way I talk so much is because I know exactly what I'm doing. So I'm not really focused on the game at all. For me, it's not boring because for me, I feel like I'm sitting for an hour talking to chat, not an hour playing the game.
Yep, it's like you're hanging out with your friends. It's not boring when you're hanging out with your friends.
Exactly.
Next question. It's from Erican. It says, when you started speedrunning, did you ever feel like you couldn't do something, or it says, or would never see you getting far with it? Like, did you ever have a trick you couldn't get? / did you ever, at any point when you were speedrunning, where you're like, this isn't for me, I can't, too hard, too challenging, I'm putting too much time into something pointless, etc., etc.?
No, not really. I've definitely had tricks that I've had a harder time learning, but I never felt like I'm not gonna be able to get this. I've always had a pretty easy time learning tricks, so that had never been an issue with. I definitely didn't think I was gonna end up where I was streaming wise. Like, I don't think anyone expects to be big, and if you are, you're probably doing something. You're doing it wrong. I'm sorry, but but speedrunning wise, no, I didn't really feel that way. No, I didn't think I was gonna be able to hold a record in like Wind Waker, for example, though. But tricks, no.
Okay. And the last question from Dean Machine 42: what is it like to be held by Gymnast?
Comfy.
All right. Thank you for answering those questions. We're going to move on to the speed date lightning round, like I discussed earlier. So for these, I will not be responding to them. The idea is that it's a speed run. So there's just going to be 10 questions. After each one, I will then go on to reading the next question. So just answer as fast as you can, but don't try and speed up your speech, because then we just can't understand what you're saying. So think of it as fast as you can, but say it at a regular pace.
Should I have answer with short answers as well?
As long as you feel, yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, if it needs explanation, then yeah.
Sure.
All right, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, first question. Are you a morning or a night person?
Night person.
What would be your perfect date?
Watching a movie, drinking White Claw.
What is your biggest fear?
Bugs. Insects.
What is one thing on your bucket list?
Join the Mile High Club.
What is the grossest thing you've ever eaten?
I'll go with snails.
If you could visit any place in the world, where and why?
Japan. Love the culture.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Don't Stop Believing.
Who would you choose to play you in a movie about you?
Tom Holland.
What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Tequila shots.
What's your favorite way to spend your time other than gaming and streaming?
Playing Tetris 99 and watching old shows that I've already watched. Very relaxing.
Other than gaming. I guess just like other than
Oh
gaming
yeah,
or
sorry.
streaming.
Tetris is technically gaming. Okay, and then the only thing I would say that I actually do would be going out to dinners with my parents.
All right. Yeah, that one's a little hard. That last question really stumps a lot of the people because they're that's all 10 questions, by the way. Thank you for coming on this date with me.
Okay. Of course.
That last one definitely stumps up a lot of the people because everyone's on the show is kind of a gamer. They're like, what? What am I supposed to do? Read books? What am I, a nerd? And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that one just tricks everyone up.
For all nerds.
There's some people who really like movies. I feel like movies just tends to go well with gamers, but yeah. So we are wrapping up the show. Do you have any closing statements? Do you have anything coming up? You know, something you want to shout out? What's next in the world for Linkus7?
Well, I'm gonna keep doing more variety, more general Zelda content, speedrun content in general. Yeah, check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Linkus7, or my YouTube channel, also Linkus7.
I forgot to ask earlier. What's the 7 come from in your name? Is it just you were Linkus and needed a number? I know that Linkus is like a combination of Link in your name.
Yeah, Link and Linus.
Yeah.
7 was just I was gonna make like old back in the day. My boomer friends remember those Flash game websites when you used to make Flash games. There's like a racing game, like something Racing 2. Don't remember exactly. Either way, the name Linkus was taken on that random game, and 7 just happened to be my lucky number because in amusement parks in Sweden, you can take a number from like 1 to 12, and you can win like basically candy. And as a kid, I remember that I won candy by putting 50 cents on the number 7. So ever since then, it just kind of became my number. So, yeah.
So sorry for dragging. I know we're ending the show, but now I'm curious. When you got partner, I know you're allowed to like change your name, right? Did you ever consider getting rid of the 7 to just be Linkus?
Yeah, I've been reached out by Twitch probably 3 or 4 times asking like, hey man, checking you on Linkus instead of Linkus7. I've said no every time. The reasoning I haven't is just pretty simple, honestly. I won't do it because I can't get Linkus7 on all other platforms. I can't get it easily on. I can't get it on Twitter, and Twitter you would need to be really big to get it. Like contacts on Twitter. I mean, everyone that's out to deal with Twitter support probably knows like not the best. YouTube would technically be fine because you can set your name to whatever you want. But in general, I just want it to be consistent over all social medias, and I feel like you would have to be even bigger to really be able to just like get Linkus everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just kept
fair.
the 7. Also, because there's no other big people that has a name that starts with Link. If you type Link or Linka or Linkus in, no one else is gonna come up. It's always my name first. So that's also another thing.
Search your YouTube recently, and I put in Link U, and Linkus7 popped up. So this is accurate.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't care about the 7. You will find me anyways.
The 7's also, you can just pretend it's Linkus Salute.
Exactly. Thank you for your service.
All right. And thank you for being on this show. It was a pleasure to have you here. It was a wonderful date. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And see you guys next time.